crazy. Okay. All right. So zero product property means that if you have two quantities being multiplied, like a times the quantity a minus 12 is equal to 0, right? It means that either one of them or both of them is equal to 0, because we know that 5 times 0 is 0, or 0 times x would still be 0. So by following that property, if you look at the green portion over here, right, to find a and b by themselves, you have to copy each one of them and make them equal to 0. And that's basically what we're going to do right now. So let's copy each factor and make it equal to 0. So the first factor is a. Let's copy that down. Equal to 0. Yeah. Let me see if I can make this bigger. All right. Do you guys see it better? Okay. So that's going to be, thank you for your patience, you guys. So a is equal to 0. That's the first one, right? And the second portion is you're going to copy the other factor, the one inside the parentheses, and make it equal to 0 again. So a minus 12 is equal to 0. Okay, so when you write it down, just make sure you keep that small letter a right there. Because that's the variable. Okay, for a is equal to 0, that's a dead end, right? Because a is already by itself. A is, by itself. All right, but here we have to get a by itself. So solve for a. So how do we do that? We move the 12 over. So a equals, that's going to be 0 plus 12, right? Let's admit some more French right there. Okay. So you move the 12 over to the right. It became positive. So then 0 plus 12 will just be equal to 12. Right? Okay. So how do we know when we're done? We know we're done when the letter A's are already by themselves. And how many solutions are we expecting? How many possible values of A are we expecting? 2. Very good. So pretty much the number of factors kind of tells you, how many solutions you're expecting. Okay, so can you let me know about that? Was that like easy? Did you understand that part, that example? Before we move on, and I'm sorry my writing thing is not working right now, so please bear with me. Okay, but we'll always try our best, right? No matter what. Cool. I'm happy that you find it easy. Then let's keep practicing. Here we go. Can you tell me what to write first? So remember, even if there's like a number in front of the variable, it's just like you're picking fruits. So first fruit is the first factor. Second fruit is the second factor. Okay, somebody type in the chat pod what I'm going to put. 5p equal to 0. That's great. All right. Let's do that. So 5p equal to 0. Now, we need to get the p by itself. So what will you multiply to 5 so the answer will be 0? What is p equal to? In other words, 0. Very good. It's like you're dividing 0 by 5, right? Okay, so p is equal to 0. That's great. That's the first one. We need one more. What will I write? Oh, thank you, Enrique, for the feedback. I'm happy to hear you guys find it easy. P minus 2 is equal to 0. That's great. Okay. Now we have to get the p by itself. So what will you do with the 2? You're going to move it to the other side, right? So can you tell me what the final value of p is? Tell me what the final value of p is if you move the 2 to the other side. What would it be? 2. Perfect, because it's going to be 0 plus 2. So that will be p is equal to 2. All right, so those are the solutions. But before we move on, I want us to find some shortcuts. If you found that easy, maybe you would find it even much more easier if you find a shortcut. So let's find a shortcut. See, if 5p is equal to 0, pretty much if you have an outlier, the answer automatically is 0. Did you see that pattern? Whether or not there's like a variable in front, if it's just 5p, 6x, 7m, something like that, it's still going to be 0, right? But if it's inside the parentheses and it has a positive or a minus sign, look what happened in the final answer. The negative 12 became positive 12. So what pattern do you see there? The negative 2 became positive 2. So what pattern do you see there, guys? They just turned to their what? Like the negative 2 here became positive 2. So it just turned to their opposites, right? Did you see that pattern? Okay, well, but if you get it? Yeah, like for example, a minus 12. What's the opposite? 12. Because 12 minus 12 is equal to 0. So pretty much you're finding that number such that when you substitute it, it makes that 0. That's why for the outlier here, it's a. If you make a 0 and multiply by anything, the answer will just be 0. Right? You get that? Okay. So let's try here. What if there are now numbers in front? Okay, let's see. Let's copy the first one. 2b minus 6 equal to 0. So now, let's continue with the pattern that we just got earlier. You said it's the opposite of this number right here. It's the opposite of the constant, right? The number that's by itself is called constant. Alright? So let's move the constant over to the other side. It will become 0 plus 6. It will just become 6, right? Do you get that so far? Let me know if we can move on. And tell me, what am I going to do with the 2, which is right in front of the b? What am I going to do with the 2, which is right in front of the b? Divide it. Very good. So we're going to divide by 2. So 6 divided by 2. And b is equal to 3. Yeah? Okay. So now can you find a pattern if there's a number in front? What do we always do if there's a number in front? Because maybe then we can use that shortcut to figure out the other one. So we already found that we always, let me go there right here. So we've seen so far that we always get the opposite of the constant, right? And the constant is the number that is by itself. But what do we always do with the number in front? Like, for example, here we divided 0 by the number in front, which is 5. Here we divided 6 by the number that comes with b. So if there's a number in front, what do we always do? We always, meaning if there's a coefficient, that's the divide. Very good. So the fancy name for the number in front of the variable is coefficient. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to get the opposite of the constant, and then we're going to divide by the coefficient. So the slash means divide. I wish I can write right now, but I can't, you guys, so please bear with me. So we get the opposite of the constant, divide by the coefficient. The coefficient is just a fancy name for the number in front of the variable. Okay? Yeah? What's coefficient in Spanish? How do you translate that to Spanish? I'm just curious, look. Because I know divide. It's divided, right? Like, what's coefficient in Spanish? Tell me, okay? Later. Alright, so let's try to use that shortcut to solve the other one. Okay? Let's solve the other one. 3b plus 18 is equal to 0. Because if you understand the shortcut, you don't have to write out a lot of things. That will help you a lot. Okay, so b is equal to, what's the shortcut? opposite of the constant. So can you tell me what is the opposite of the constant in here? What's the opposite of the constant? Negative 18. Very good. Divided by the coefficient, the number that comes to the variable. So what's the coefficient in this example? 3. Perfect. And you got the answer already. Negative 6. Boom. You don't have to like solve, right? Did you get that? I'm just kind of, trying to make the work, somewhat easier. But I'm pretty sure if you understood like the concept that we're doing here, we move the number over. That's why we say opposite. And then you divide by the coefficient because we divided by the number that's in front. Yep. Is that cool? But if you don't get that, of course, you can always follow this method. Okay, I want to know like which one do you understand more, the long way or the shortcut? Which one do you understand more, the long way or the shortcut? You kind of get it? I'm happy to hear that, George. Okay, let's try again. Both. Yay! Boom! That's Friday. Let's go. Okay. All right. Yeah. So here we go. Let's try again. Well, what if it has an x minus 3 to the second power? Don't worry about that. It just makes it look, complicated, but it's the same banana. It just means you're writing out x minus 3 two times, right? Okay, so this is like the long, complete name. This is like the nickname. Yeah? Hi, Oscar. That's okay, honey. You know why? Because like some of the lessons, of course, that we're using also right now have been discussed previously, but that's okay. Don't feel so bad, We do it like one day at a time, honey. One day at a time. Yep. So just kind of follow along. Stay in that moment, Just let it flow, and then maybe hopefully after a day or two it will start to click it. Yep. Oh, and Sean got it already. Yep. Did you use a shortcut, Sean? So you just get the opposite of the number. So x is equal to 3. There you go. So we move the 3 over to the other side. That's it. And even though there's 2 of them, you only write it only once. You only write it once. Okay? All right. So x is equal to 3. Nice work, Sean. Okay, next. Okay, so even if you see a power 2, just ignore that. It doesn't affect, the answer at all. It just means that it is used as a factor 2 times. When you go to algebra 2, you will need to be more, specific. Some teachers would ask you to write multiplicity of 2, meaning it was used 2 times. Okay, but for now, let's just focus on finding the value of the variable. Okay, I'm waiting for you to give me the answers. Look at this one. Yeah? You gotta give me the opposite. Opposite. You know that kindergarten song? It got stuck in my head. Negative 4. So W equals negative 4. Oh, what did I do? I did something wrong. What did I do? Okay, here. So, oh no, why did I delete the other one? I did something terrible. Okay, there you go. It came back, right? So W equals negative 4. That's good. What about from the other one? Here, like what's the opposite right here? So Oscar, if you can follow along in terms of that, just like finding the opposite, that's one big step for you today. So very good. Okay, so get the opposite of +1, because imagine you're moving it to the other side. So W is equal to -1. Okay, that's cool, you guys. All right, and just like what I mentioned earlier, in Algebra 2, maybe you will be asked to say something like this, meaning -4 was an answer 2 times, because there are 2 factors that are W plus 4. Okay. But for Algebra 1, you don't have to. Okay, so here we go. All right, so Oscar, remember what I told you. Just stay with that concept. Like, what's the opposite of the number? Opposite of the number. Opposite of the number. Okay? So, opposite of the number that is by itself. All right. Oh, let's do this. Now they are not arranged in the usual way that it's not arranged in standard form. Okay? So, yep. It's not arranged in standard form, meaning the W or the variable doesn't come first. How do we do that? So remember your shortcut in your head. Opposite of the constant, divide by the number that comes with the variable or the coefficient. Okay, let's try that. M equals, what's the opposite of the number that is by itself? What is the opposite of the number that is by itself in the 4 minus m portion? Just focus on this, one factor at a time. What's the opposite? -4. Very good. Now stay right there. Don't leave that -4 yet, because can you tell me what's the number that comes with -m? What's the hidden number over there? 1? Good. So that means it's -1m, right? So you're going to divide -4 by -1. And what will be the final answer? What will be the final answer? What's -4 divided by -1? 4. Very good. 4. Very good. Okay, there you go. So that's your final answer. So even if they're not arranged in the same exact order that we saw earlier, you can still do the shortcut, right? So it works. So Oscar, why did we get 4? Because 4 minus the answer we got 4 will make you 0. So if one of these guys is 0, then the whole answer will be equal to 0. Let me admit some of our friends. I think some of them are having Wi-Fi issues. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This one. Ooh, look at that. Look at that. All right. How do we do that? Let's start. M equals. What's the opposite of the constant? What's the opposite of the constant? Hi, Valerie. It's okay, honey. Don't be sorry. It's not your fault. Remember that day when I got like, I'm on one device, on the other, and then on the phone, and I get kicked out again. Okay. -8. Cool. That's fine, honey, but I appreciate that you always try to come back. Alright, so -8, right? Divided by, what's your coefficient here? What's your coefficient here? It's 2/3. Okay, I wish I could write it. Okay, that doesn't look good, right? I'm gonna try to like write it by hand, write it out. By the way, Oscar, if you want to write on your notebook, you go draw, pen. Okay, I'm gonna try to write this out because -8, right? And then we're dividing by 2. That is so sloppy, but okay, that's 2/3. You know, like in middle school, when you're dividing by a fraction, what do? You flip the fraction around, right? Okay, and then you make it equal to like -8 times. So let me make that times sign bigger. Now you flip this one around, right? So 3/2. Oh, what's
I didn't do.
Sorry, Bixby. All right. Okay, so I just thought like you could see it clearer if I write it out. There you go. So now help me with this. What is -8 times 3 and then you divide it by 2? What is -8 times 3 and then you divide it by 2? What is that? Help me with that. -8 times 3 divided by 2. Remember, this 8 right here has a denominator 1. -12. Very good. So you just go top to top, bottom to bottom, right? So -8 times 3 is -24 divided by 2. That's correct, Juliet. So I'm gonna make this one now. What is it? -12. Because it didn't look math. Um, it didn't look correct when I went -8 divided by 2 divided by 3. Yeah. Okay, so m is equal to -12. And this is the explanation for that one. Okay, let's try to find the last factor. This one. M again equals opposite of the constant. So help me out with that. Opposite of the constant is 2 divided by what's the coefficient of m, meaning the number that comes with m. 3. Let's try that again. So when you take the number that comes with m, if it has a little accessory there, it has to take it with, the number has to take it with the coefficient takes the same sign. Yes, so divided by -3. So that's going to be -2/3, right? There you go. You can move the negative on top. Or you can, if I write it out, it's going to be like m is equal to negative in the middle and then 2/3. There you go. Okay? All right. So in a scale of like 1 to 3, where are you? 3 is I got both the long way and the shortcut, Mr. Siaga. 2 is I'm good at one of the methods, and 1 is I get some pieces of it, but I need more practice. So can you type in the chat like where you are in this one? Ooh, happy for you, honey. 2.5. Okay, I'll take that. That's good. That's good. Don't doubt yourself, Sean. 2.5 is like 3. Come on. Miss, how can I raise my grade? I have a 36%. Um, there's only two things you need to work on, honey. I'm simplifying all stuff this semester because so Delta and Schoology. That's it. That's it. If you miss some of the lessons, like I tried to record some of them, but sometimes I'm not successful because there's no audio or whatever, but I still upload them to the YouTube that I created for our classes this semester. Yeah. Yeah. So just the Schoology and Delta Math. Okay, I'm gonna skip this one, guys. Um, for now, and hopefully we can go back to that next Monday. I just want to go straight to our main goal for today because I know like some of you really nailed that getting the zero, getting the zero of the equation. So I want to follow that up right away. Some of us are still like beginning to understand some of it. Oscar, I do understand, I mean it's like joining the army when the battle is already like, more than 50% started. So, but don't get overwhelmed, you know? Yeah. So take it one day at a time, honey. Okay. And hopefully if you try to, I don't know if you can access the videos that I created in the past. Yeah, I'm not sure if they could, help you out a little bit, but I hope, they could. Yeah. All right. So just, try to get little pieces, you know, each time. Okay, so we're gonna do the same thing that we were doing earlier, but with a little tweak. Okay. We are going to talk about roots right now. It's about roots. Okay, so what are roots? Man, what are roots? I heard, I thought only trees have roots. Okay, so roots are numbers that make an equation zero. So, if you think of a tree, right? I mean, a tree is rooted to the ground, right? So ground 0. So roots are numbers that make an equation equal to 0. And that's what we're going to look for. It's just a fancy name pretty much for solutions, solutions. That's the same thing as roots. That's the same thing as what else? How are roots called? Zero. Sometimes we call them zeros. I'm not good in English. Do I put a letter E before the S if it ends with a vowel? Oh well. Okay, you help me with that. Hi Valerie, did I not answer your question? Oh, so you gotta do Delta Math and Schoology, honey. Those are the only two things I'm requiring from you this year. Yes, if you look at Schoology, yeah, OneNote, attendance, yeah, I checked those two. So if you're present, you access your OneNote, pretty much that's like 3 easy points for you. That's why it's really important that you sign in every time. Okay. Alright, I'm trying to get everyone at least a passing grade. I don't want to fail anybody, so yep, we just gotta work, work, work. Okay, so let's do this. Alright. This is kind of challenging without writing pen, but I will try. Okay, so we have 6k squared plus k equal to 0. Ooh, that looks weird. Different, right? Because if you look at the things we were doing up here, there were no exponents on the variables. Man, how come it was so easy before? See, the exponent was outside, but the variable is 1. When are your office hours open? They're always open Monday, Friday, but as I mentioned earlier, the next available time is Wednesday next week. Yeah, because a lot of students like really, really, you know, are taking advantage of that. So my next available one is Wednesday next week. So let me know so I could calendar you on my phone. Okay. All right. So how do we remove? Yes. Can you remind me before we log out today so I can put you on my list? Okay. Thank you. So how do I remove the exponent on the variable? Do you remember how we found the GCF last time? Okay. So first, you have to find the GCF. Find GCF. What's GCF again? What's GCF again? What's GCF again in the chat pod? Greatest common factor. Very good. So we have to find the greatest common factor, and then after that, we get the variable by itself. When I say get the variable by itself, it's just the same thing as the shortcut you were doing over here. Okay? The zero product property. Or maybe I could call that zero product shortcut, right? Because you guys learned the shortcut. Okay. So let's look at this. What do you think is the GCF of 6k and k? Let's simplify that. Just look at them. Don't think about math and tell me what letter do you see in both. Okay, you don't need math to answer that. Look at 6k squared and k. What letter do you see in both? In the chat pod. What letter is present in 6k squared and k? So what do they have in common? K. So start with that. Sometimes math is just patterns, The terms just make it complicated, but it's all patterns. Good. Okay. So that's what they have in common, right? This has a number 6. This doesn't have a number but 1. So what do 1 and 6 have in common? Like 6 is 6 times 1, 1 is 1 times 1. It's just 1, so it's not going to affect the answer, right? Okay, this is K, by the way. I'm sorry, my handwriting is sloppy. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to divide each of them by K. So I'm going to start writing here. K is the GCF. Where did we find the K? It's the common thing, right? Parentheses. So now, we're going to divide. I'm holding the screen as if you guys will see what I'm pointing at. But anyway, so what is 6 divided by 1 at the bottom? Help me in the chat pod. What's 6 divided by 1? 6. Okay, so we know we're going to put the 6 back in. Now, you have K2. So you have K2 on top, and then you have K1 at the bottom. So you're going to take that 1K away, right? So you have K, 2 Ks on top. Now you're going to take 1 away. So how many Ks left? How many Ks left? How many? You have K2 on top. There's 2 Ks, right? K squared. Now you're taking out 1K at the bottom because you're dividing. How much 1K is left? In the chat pod? 1. Very good. 1K. So how am I going to write that down? I'm going to write 6K. Do you guys follow? Or should I write that portion out? You got to tell me, guys, because, yeah. So K squared is K times K, right? Sorry for the sloppiness. And then at the bottom, you have 1K. So why did you guys say 1? Because boom, that cancels out. Boom, that cancels out, right? So you only have 1K left. Did everybody get that? Yes? No? Say that again. Okay, what about the others? Kinda? Okay. So, how else can I make that a little simple? Oh, how about this? Just subtract the exponents. How about that? Is that simple? Like, this is K2, and this is K1. 2 minus 1, 1. How's that? Is that simple and understandable? Yeah, okay, cool. So when you're dividing like this, just subtract the exponents. Think of it that way. Okay. Next. What about this? There's a plus after. So just put plus, right? Now, what's K divided by K? If you cancel that out, what's K divided by K? It's like 5 divided by 5. 3 divided by 3. What's the answer? K divided by K. 1. Perfect. So 1. We close that one equal to 0. How do we know we can close it already? Well, if you've divided each one of them, you can close it already. Yeah. So now from here, does that look familiar? Does that look familiar? Isn't that what we were doing earlier? Yep. So pretty much we did all these so we can make it solvable. Okay, now your turn. What's K? What's K? Remember your shortcuts? Like you pick and choose the factor and get the opposite of the constant or make it equal to 0 if it's an outlier. So what is K here? K equals, what's the first one? Here, this one first. If we look at that first factor, what is that outlier equal to? K equals, remember what I said earlier? If it's a variable outside, it's always equal to. Okay, let's go back to what we saw earlier so you can make that connection. You see what we were doing here earlier? If there's a variable right there, it was A equal to 0. If it was a 5p over there, you wrote it down, you still got 0. There you go. Right? So if there's a variable, where are we now? Here. So the k is equal to 0. Why? Because, 0 times anything will make the equation equal to 0. Right? Okay, what about the other one? What about here? Now use the shortcut that you were using earlier. Opposite divided by the coefficient. So what's the opposite first? What's the opposite? -1. Now what am I going to divide by? What am I going to divide by? 6. There you go. And those are your two answers. Okay, let's pause there. Please ask questions. Because there's no point moving on if you have some some like doubts in your head. Did I really get that? But if you already know what you're doing, move on. So that's the other portion. Don't let me slow you down. That's why I love OneNote, because you can just keep going depending on your pace. Okay. So if you have doubts whether you got that or not, can you please ask me questions? And be specific. Where did that zero come from, Miss Arciaga? Or why did you divide by? Be specific. And if you already know what to do, please move on. Don't wait for me. Don't let me slow you down. Questions? Anybody? Questions? You think you get it? I'm happy for you, honey. So just repeat this process in the next one while I'm waiting for your classmates to kind of maybe think of their, questions or how to express their confusions. You get it? Okay. So well, thank you for the feedback, because yeah, I'm just taking my cue from the chat pod, you guys. Yeah, if we were in the classroom, I'll probably be able to like read your faces, or if I go around and see whether you're doing it or not, I can help you out. My internet bugged out. How did you get 1/6? Okay, good. So the 1/6 came from, you remember the shortcut we were doing earlier? We get the opposite of the constant, which is -1. And then we divide by the coefficient, which is 6. Remember the shortcut we were doing earlier? But if you did not get that shortcut, Brandon, it's just pretty much we copy the factor and make it equal to 0, right? We move the 1 over, so 6k is equal to, when you move the 1, it's -1, and then you divide by 6. So that's the long way to do it. Okay. All right, can you be more specific, honey? Something like how Brandon asked, like, I don't know how you got the 1/6. Because, yeah, I also don't know how to answer that question, honey. Yeah. So can you be more specific in this example? But if it's the whole process, then maybe we can wait till like I move on to the next question so we can understand the whole process again. Yeah. Any more specific questions, details about the first one? Okay, so I hope I answered your question, Brandon. I explained it by using the shortcut, and I showed the long way here, whichever you understand more. Okay. The first step at the top, how did you get that one? Oh, this one? Okay, the first step at the top. First step at the top. Okay, this, right? The first step at the top. So, the first step is we first find the GCF. And this first letter here came from what they both have in common. What they both have in common. So let's say, what can divide the first group that can also divide the second group? And we see that K is the only thing that they share, right? Yeah? But I think you can also understand this more when we go to the next example, because that's about GCF. Maybe it's the GCF that's kind of confusing you. But in general, just to kind of give you a general answer to that question, this comes from the GCF and the result after you divide the GCF. Okay, so K is the GCF, right? And then the numbers and letters inside the parentheses is the answer when you divide each of them. Okay, and I will explain that again over here when I do the second one. Brandon, when it's positive, you change it to a negative. Yes, the shortcut was opposite of the constant. And why? But don't memorize it that way, Brandon. We're getting the opposite because when we do it the long way, we're actually moving it to the other side. So when you move it to the other side, it changes it to its opposite. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So, Christian, as a follow up to your question, and maybe this will also clarify Cecily's. So, the first step is find the GCF. Find the GCF. Okay. So, what's the GCF of 35 and 49 just by looking at them. Remember, just by looking at them. So think in your head, what do they have in common? Like 35. What's 35? What two numbers when I multiply gives me 35? And n also, very good, Christian. So they have n in common. But now the 35 and 49 also share something in common. So think of that number. What is that number? What divides 35 and 49? I know this. What is it? Come on, guys, help me. What can divide 35 and 49? Come on, you work very good, Brandon. 7. That's your GCF. That's how you find the thing outside the parentheses. Okay, so now let's put the parentheses. It's like when you have 35, like 5 times 7 is 35, right? So one factor is 7 and the other factor is 5. So that's what we're looking for here. This is one common factor for both of them. Now we're going to find that thing so that when we multiply it back, we're going to get the original problem. So it's like the opposite of multiplying. You're breaking them down. You're breaking them down. So maybe that will kind of make it clearer a little bit. Okay, so let's see. Let's divide now. Christian, this will answer your question earlier, and maybe Cecily will also get it clearer from here. After you get the GCF, you now divide one by one, yeah? What's 35 divided by 7? What's 35 divided by 7? I just didn't write it at the bottom, but if it helps you, do it. 5, very good. Next, n divided by n. N divided by n. Do you have any n left or no more n? No more. 0. Okay, then don't put the n anymore, right? Because n divided by n is 0. And if it helps you guys, on your paper you can write like this. 7n, so you can kind of see that, oh yeah, that cancels out. Yeah? Okay, I just didn't do it that way, so you guys can also practice doing it in your head. Okay, but if it helps you, go for it. Next one, minus 49 divided by 7. 49 divided by 7. 7. Very good. If you guys know the answer, like answer faster. Because remember, I take the cue from you. So if you want to get more examples done, you're gonna okay. Next, n squared divided by n. So you had 2 n's. You took 1 away. How many left? N. Very good. Okay, close that one. How do you know you can close it? Well, there's 2 of them, so that means you just have to divide 2 times. Equal to 0. Okay, Christian, did I answer your question? Cicely, did I clarify some stuff? Let me know. And those, yes? Okay, cool. See, so if you guys are specific, you get this one a little more now. Yay! Okay, so you guys need to tell me what you need specifically so I could try, Yes. All right, so now from here, let's try to kind of make it simpler one more time. So if the thing outside, right, it has no plus or minus, it's just 7n or 5k or k. What's your shortcut? You always make it equal to what? N is equal to 0. There you go. The one outside, if it's just outside, like k, see, it's 0. Because 7 times 0 is 0, right? Next, what about the other end? What's a shortcut again? Opposite of the number that's by itself. So what's the opposite of the constant? -5. Very good. Divide by the coefficient. What's the coefficient? Try again. What's the coefficient? If it has a little accessory with it, you have to bring that down also. -7. There you go. So then that will be negative over negative. That's positive. Okay. All right. Okay. So I want you to practice on this last one over here, right? Yeah, just this last one, and then I'll discuss this with you next meeting. Um, because I wanna show you where you can find your extra credit. Because this is a lot, and you might want to start with it this weekend. It's not due until like next week, Friday. And if it's extra credit, I don't want it late. So you have to you have a week to finish it. Let me explain it to you so you can start on this weekend. Now, why is it not loading? Oh, sorry, Bixby. Wait, what's the extra credit? I'm waiting for it to open, honey. Give me 1 second. Be patient. You guys, is it opening on your notebook? Yes? Oh my god. How come it's not opening on mine? Can you please share your screen? So I can explain it. There you go. I already let you share your screen. You can unshare mine. Just click share. Alright. Scroll down, honey. There. So this is your first set of extra credit. All of them you're gonna answer in the same way. Can you type, honey? Can you type like 8 at the bottom of the X method? Keep going. In number 1, I'm looking at number 1. There, in number 1. Yeah, that one. Okay. Can I see the problem too, honey? The problem is covered. There you go. Okay, so underneath your X, like put 8. Type 8. Cicely, that was a different one. Yeah, this is another extra credit for a different lesson. Yeah. But I have yet to give you feedback on the first extra credits you gave me. Yeah, because you only found the GCF, but you did not find the other factors. So I'll send you a note on that one. Thank you, Juliet. Next, on top of the X, can you put 12? Yeah, there. Okay. So the first thing you have to know is what goes on top, what goes to the bottom, you know? So now you need to find two numbers that multiply to 12 and add up to 8. So you don't need... Yes, if you don't want to hear the extra credit, you may leave, honey. That's fine. So can you like tell me what two numbers multiply to 12, but when you add them, it's 8? So what multiplies to 12, and when you combine them, add or subtract, you get 8? What are they? Somebody in the chat pod? Come on, guys. What two numbers multiply to 12 that add up to 8? Anyone? Anyone in the chat pod? What are the factors of 12? 6. Very good. 6 times what, Henry? Very good, Christian. And when you add 6 and 2, it becomes 8. So, Juliet, on the left-hand side of the X, you put either 6 or 2, whichever. Yeah. Maybe you can type in 6 and then spaces, spaces, space. Just click space so you can go to the right-hand side. All the way there, you put 2. Oh, did you unshare? Okay. All right. So, yeah, that's it. So that's what the extra credit is about. So you're going to do all that repeatedly. So you're looking for two numbers such that when you add them, you get the bottom, but when you multiply them, you get the top. That's extra credit. You think you could do that over the weekend? And then I'll teach you next week how that ties up with the lesson. Okay. Any other questions? Valerie, the extra credit is in your OneNote. Yep. It's called factoring trinomials. All right. Any questions on the extra credit? I know, but where? It's in week 7. It's in week 7. All right, guys. So you're just gonna do that repeatedly, and I'll teach you next week how to enter your answers in Schoology. All right. Okay. Happy weekend, everybody. Bye. Let me check your notebook, Valerie. Give me 1 second. I can see that you do have a week 7, and I can also see that you have factoring trinomials, honey. Did you find it? Did you find it? George, the homework is in week number 7. So, Valerie, I'm actually using your notebook right now. Yeah. So, this is week number 7, and this is factoring trinomials. There you go. So, that's your extra credit. Did you watch how Juliet set it up? And there's an example over here as well. So you don't have to do the box, but you're only doing the X method like this. Okay. All right, you guys. You can find it, Valerie? I'm in your notebook right now, honey. Found it? Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. Okay, bye everybody. Have a good one. George, yeah, but it's not due until next week. So we're gonna use that for the whole week. So don't panic. Yeah, do as many. Just so if you have nothing to do this weekend, you can, or maybe while you're watching TV, you can kind of work on it, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay, bye, honey. I'll see ya. I have a homeroom at 11:30. Okay, bye.